Chapter 51. Yi Chen responded blandly, "In this true spirit continent, strength is everything. What does it have to do with me if he is not as powerful as others? Strength is everything. So, I can beat you to death without a problem." Cui Shiming narrowed his eyes and said coldly. "As long as you have the ability, come at me. But, I have to warn you, if you are injured by me, will another top 10 inner disciple of the Emerald Martial Palace appear?" Cui Shiming looked angry. Even if he was an idiot, he could tell that Yi Chen was mocking him. He said scornfully, "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak so arrogantly? Today, I will destroy your cultivation in front of everyone. I will let everyone know what happens to those who bully the disciples of the Emerald Martial Palace." Yi Xian saw that the fight was about to break out. She tried to stop him. "Brother Cui, this is all a misunderstanding, please don't make a big fuss. Sister Yi, you don't have to worry about this. It's not that I don't want to give you face, it's just that this Yi Chen is way too arrogant. He thinks that he can do whatever he wants just because he is a little bit powerful. If everyone learns from him in the future, then we, the Emerald Martial Palace, would have any prestige left." No matter what Cui Shiming did, he liked to gain the upper hand in the grand scheme of things and then easily defeat his opponent. He wanted his opponent to suffer a double blow both mentally and physically, never to recover from this setback. Taking a heavy step forward, Cui Shiming felt as if he was stepping on a tornado. An endless gust of wind rose up and burst out, pressing towards Yi Chen with a great pressure. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and the tables and chairs around him floated up into the air and were smashed out of the window. Yi Chen's feet were rooted in the ground, and didn't move at all. He was like a rock that had been standing by the river for thousands of years. No matter how strong the wind or the waves were, they couldn't move him even a little bit. Cui Shiming's expression changed, a shadow split out from his body. This shadow was thin, and was made of countless air currents. It was like a sharp blade, and it flew straight towards Yi Chen. Shadow Cut. It's the secret skill, Shadow Cut. Brother Cui, you've tried to kill him right from the start, this Yi Chen is dead for sure. The disciples of the Emerald Martial Palace yelled out in surprise. The so-called secret skill was a secret martial skill. This kind of martial skill was very difficult to guard against, and was basically used as a trump card. If caught off guard, even a martial artist with a higher cultivation would be injured, or even killed. However, secret skills were very difficult to cultivate, several times harder than martial skills of the same level. Moreover, there were too few secret skills. Most of them were passed down from ancient times. Cui Shiming's Shadow Cut was a top-rank mortal realm skill, which was divided into 3 levels. The first level was to create a sharp stream of qi from the user's body, which could be used to cut the target. The second level was the level he was currently at, where the sharp qi could form into a shadow, which was extremely flexible and could kill people as easily as chopping vegetables. The third level was said to allow the user to transform into a human shape, which could confuse people's vision and self-destruct, which was extremely lethal. With the Shadow Cut, Cui Shiming had once killed a late condensing reality realm warrior, which made him quite famous in the martial world. Faced with the shadow's attack, Yi Chen raised his fist and punched out. Whoosh! The wind generated by the punch blew the table in front of him into pieces. The shadow sensed the qi wave, so it twisted its body in advance, dodging the attack that was enough to shatter it, and continued to attack Yi Chen from another angle. Yi Chen frowned, such a strange martial skill, it was 10 times more flexible than a human's body, and it was very sensitive to the qi wave, it was hard to hurt it directly. The shadow sometimes turned into a human figure and tried to entangle Yi Chen, sometimes it turned into a sharp awl, sometimes it stretched its body and attacked like a whip, sometimes it performed a set of sword art, and the sword light shone brightly. Break! After a while, Yi Chen pulled out his sword and stabbed it into the shadow's forehead. Such a fast sword. Cui Shiming was shocked, he sneered, "Don't even think about breaking my Shadow Cut. But I don't have time to waste with you, shadow rain kill. Puff 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 puff, the shadow, which had been stabbed in the forehead, dimmed a little. Its body shook in the air, and countless needle-like chi flew towards Yi Chen at an extremely fast speed. Shoo! Since reaching the condensing reality realm, it was the first time that Yi Chen performed the golden swallow art. His body flashed, as if he had wings on his back. He instantly disappeared from where he was standing. In the next second, the place where Yi Chen was standing was full of holes. It seemed like it was even more powerful than the small-caliber bullets in the 21st century. If I am not wrong, you and the shadow should have some kind of connection, then I will cut it off. The sword light flashed. Yi Chen's sword landed in the space between Cui Shiming and the shadow. It met with some obstacles along the way, but it still went all the way to the end. Crack! The sound of a thin thread breaking was heard. The shadow changed its shape a few times, and finally scattered. It turned into countless chi waves and disappeared into the air. Bastard! Cui Shiming's face turned pale. This shadow was formed by 1/3 of his Jin Qi, and was controlled by 13 Jin Qi threads. Right now, Yi Chen had cut off all of his Jin Qi threads, which meant that he had lost more than 1/3 of his Jin Qi. What? Brother Chui's shadow cut was broken. This is one of the 13 minor secret martial arts of the Emerald Martial Palace. How could it be broken so easily? Has he seen it before? So this is the secret of the shadow cut. How did he know? All the disciples of the Emerald Martial Palace had different expressions on their faces. After cutting off the Jin Qi thread with one sword attack, Yi Chen looked at Cui Shiming. The secret martial art that is made public is no longer a secret martial art. I am afraid that all the disciples behind you have already known about it. Brother Cui, don't listen to him, we will keep it a secret for you. That's right, I swear with my dignity, I will never tell anyone about the secret of the shadow cut. Hearing him, Cui Shiming's face darkened. He said ferociously, you are dead, you are definitely dead. Do you really think that I am relying on the shadow cut? Let me tell you, the shadow cut is only one of my tricks. Now I will show you my real power. Crack jade claw. Crack. The floor of the second floor was completely broken. 5 claw marks extended all the way to the other side of the second floor. With his clothes fluttering in the air, Yi Chen avoided the range of the claw power by a hair's breadth. His body floated backwards, and when he was about to hit the wall, he kicked his right foot back. Boom! The wall was shattered, and Yi Chen flew towards Cui Shiming like a huge bird, stabbing out with his sword. The amazing sword light condensed into a single point, and even the sound of the wind had disappeared completely, which made people feel like they were going deaf. Cui Shiming roared out, and threw out a claw attack towards the sword edge. Chin! Intense sparks flew out, and the calm air started to boil up, creating circles of transparent patterns, which pushed the two away. Turn of the road. In midair, Yi Chen's body twisted, and he once again dove towards Cui Shiming, stabbing into his shoulder. The tip of the sword came out of his back. At that moment, everyone was stunned as they stared at the scene in front of them. Chapter 52. Swoosh! Pulling out his sword, Yi Chen landed a few meters away and put his sword back into its scabbard. You are not as good as me, I believe you have nothing to say. On the other hand, if I lose to you, my cultivation will definitely be destroyed. I will not kill you now, nor will I destroy your cultivation. If you keep bothering me, don't blame me for being cruel. Plus, I believe that the Emerald Martial Palace will not start a war with the Sky Cloud Martial School just for an inner disciple like you. You are not qualified yet. Yi Hai, let's go. All the food was knocked over. Fortunately, the two had almost finished eating. Yi Hai stared at Yi Chen's back in shock. He knew that Yi Chen was very powerful, but he was still shocked. Defeating a mid-condensing reality realm warrior within 10 attacks, what kind of skill was that? Compared to Yi Chen, all he had learned was blood qi, nothing else. At the top of the stairs, Yi Xian watched the two leave. She could not calm down for a long time. Perhaps, he could really dominate the young generation of the Windy Nation and achieve what even her head disciple could not. After all, he had just reached the condensing reality realm, but he had already defeated Cui Shiming, who was at the mid-condensing reality realm. When he becomes a mid-condensing reality realm warrior, wouldn't he be able to challenge late condensing reality realm warriors? Damn it, I will not let you go. Cui Shiming yelled, his face looked evil. Yi Xian frowned as she looked at Cui Shiming. Although she still did not like Yi Chen, but compared to Cui Shiming, it was clear who was better. At least Yi Chen had won fair and square. Brother Cui, are you alright? Unknowingly, Yi Xian's tone had calmed down a lot. Cui Shiming waved his hand, I was careless this time. The next time we meet, I will kill him to vent my anger. You guys listen to me, if anyone dares to leak what happened today, don't blame me for being merciless. Brother Cui, don't worry, we won't say anything. Indeed, this brat must have known the secret of the shadow cut. Otherwise, how could Brother Cui lose to him? Feeling much better, Cui Shiming turned around and looked at Yi Xian, Sister Yi, you are from the Yi family, but I have to kill Yi Chen, I hope you don't get in my way. Yi Xian said lightly, life or death, this is the fate of warriors. Alright. After returning to the Yi family, Yi Chen and Yi Hai parted ways. For the next few days, Yi Chen did not go out and spent all his time cultivating. Although his Zhenqi cultivation was much more stable than the warriors who had just reached the condensing reality realm, it was not that easy for him to reach the peak of the early condensing reality realm. He would have to accumulate and purify his Zhenqi first, building a solid foundation step by step, then he would have to increase his cultivation level. In the dark night, the moonlight was like water. On a rockery in the yard, Yi Chen sat cross-legged, holding a low-grade spirit stone in each of his hands, placing them on his knees. His breathing was steady and powerful, and he was gradually extracting yuan qi from the spirit stones. The yuan qi from the spirit stones was much purer than the yuan qi from nature. Because it had been sealed in the spirit stones for a long time, there was a hint of spiritual qi in the spirit stones. It was something even more magical than yuan qi. After being in contact with it for a long time, people would slowly become smarter and feel refreshed, which was very beneficial to the body. As the yuan qi from the spirit stones flowed into his body through the meridians in his arms, the Zhen qi whirlpool in Yi Chen's dantian sped up as well. It was like a meat grinder, shredding everything that entered into his body into pieces and reorganizing his Zhen qi. Then, the Zhen qi whirlpool followed the rest of the Zhen qi in a big circle, purifying the impurities. 1 circle. 2 circles. 3 circles. 72 circles. 108 circles. 240 circles. Yi Chen only stopped absorbing yuan qi when his meridians and dantian started to hurt, and his body became stiff and numb. He thought to himself, if I could absorb yuan qi endlessly, reaching the peak of the early condensing reality realm wouldn't be a problem. Actually, Yi Chen was too greedy. If other warriors at the same cultivation level knew Yi Chen's thoughts, they would definitely be very jealous and envious of him. It was already very rare for an early condensing reality realm warrior to be able to complete 108 circulations in his or her body. 150 circulations were almost impossible to achieve, not to mention the unbelievable 240 circulations. This was all thanks to Yi Chen's powerful body and soul. His body could hold more yuan qi, and his soul could be better controlled. Both were indispensable. The reason why those talented people could train faster was because their bodies were stronger than ordinary people, and their mental strength was perfect. As for those who had a great comprehension ability, their mental strength was much better than ordinary people, but their bodies were slightly weaker. Of course, this was also because of the low cultivation level of condensing reality realm warriors. Once they reached the clasping yuan realm, they would usually go into closed-door training for months. Sometimes, astral reaching realm warriors would go into closed-door training for years. Once they came out, they would shock the world and beat all the powerful warriors in the world. Unfortunately, the higher the cultivation level, the harder it was to improve. Closed-door training was for the purpose of accumulating one's essence and removing impurities. The possibility of improving one's cultivation level was very small. If one did not accumulate enough, it would be useless even if he went into closed-door training. Many powerful warriors, who could shake the world, died in their closed-door training, never to be heard of again. As time went by, people couldn't even remember their names. Putting away the soul stones that still had some yuan qi left, Yi Chen slowly stood up, and with only a slight movement, he arrived on top of the green water in the yard. Stepping on the water, Yi Chen's body moved up and down, but did not sink down. This was something that could only be done when one's movement art reached an extremely high level. Now that my Jin Qi has been completely stabilized, it is not realistic to increase it in a short period of time. From tomorrow onwards, I can officially start training the Tyrant Fist. After looking at the moon for a while, Yi Chen lost interest. He jumped up and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Days passed by. Apart from accumulating innate qi every night, Yi Chen spent the rest of his time practicing the Tyrant Fist. This fist art was indeed a low-tier earth realm martial skill. It had high requirements for the body and Jin Qi. If the body was not strong enough, the arm would be easily damaged by the force of the Tyrant Fist. If the Jin Qi was not pure enough, not only would the might of the fist be reduced, it would also cause more damage to the meridians. If it accumulated over a long period of time, it could cause blockages and damage to the qi and blood. In any case, Yi Chen had already crossed the threshold, and his understanding of the Tyrant Fist was deepening day by day. Finally, it was time to return to the sect. This time, when he went back, he would be able to become an inner disciple and have the right to learn top-rank mortal realm martial skills. He would also have half a year to train on his own, and after that, he would be able to take on missions from the martial institution and travel around the world. It was said that if he was powerful enough, the martial institution would even send him on missions to other countries. However, these kinds of missions were rare in the past few years, since the Windy Nation was already a big country with a lot of missions. Who would have the energy to go to other countries? Not to mention, if they were too far away from the Sky Cloud Martial School, the danger would increase exponentially. It would be very easy for them to disappear without a trace, which was something that the higher-ups of the Sky Cloud Martial School did not want to see. Chapter 53. Father, Mother, don't worry, I will take good care of myself. On the main road of Luo City, Yi Chen led his horse and said to Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing. Shen Yuqing nodded, if you don't have enough money, you can send a letter back, and I will send someone to deliver it to you. It's enough. Plus, there will be a lot of rewards for completing the sect missions. Yi Chen did not plan to ask for money from his family, as he would not be happy either. Yi Tianhao smiled helplessly, Yuqing, when Chen grows up, he will earn it with his own hands. As his parents, we should not worry about him. Chen, be careful on the road. Okay. Yi Chen nodded heavily, then I will go first, you guys take care of yourselves. After saying that, Yi Chen flipped onto his horse, waved at the two, squeezed his legs on the horse's belly, and galloped away. Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing watched Yi Chen leave. When they were about to reach the city gate, a rider caught up from behind. Yi Chen. Yi Chen turned his head and saw that it was Yi Hai. Where is your teacher? He is waiting for me at the Nameless Temple 10 miles away from the North Gate. As they spoke, the two rode their horses directly out of the North Gate, and the guards did not dare to stop them. The Nameless Temple was in the northeast, while the Sky Cloud Martial School was in the northwest. The two did not go the same way. Just a little thing for you. Taking out a blue crystal ball from his storage ring, Yi Hai threw it to Yi Chen. Catching the blue crystal ball, Yi Chen asked, what is this? Yi Hai had already galloped for dozens of meters on his horse. Without turning his head, he said loudly, I don't know, but it looks pretty. I think you will like it. Thank you. Yi Chen shook his head. He brought the blue crystal ball closer to his eyes and studied it carefully. The crystal ball was about the size of a longan. It was completely transparent and contained a blue brilliance. At first glance, one would think that the crystal ball was blue. In addition, the crystal ball was very heavy, even heavier than gold of the same size. It did not seem to be made of crystal. Since he couldn't figure out what it was, Yi Chen didn't care anymore and put it into his storage ring. After finding the right direction, Yi Chen gently pulled on the reins and sped away. Different from the cyan-maned horse he rode when he came back, this time Yi Chen was riding a real dark brown horse. It could travel 2,000 miles a day, it was born with great strength and was very stable. It was worth more than 60,000 silvers, there were less than 20 of them in the whole Yi family. At this moment, the dark brown horse was galloping at full speed. It was as fast as a gust of wind and lightning. The scenery on both sides was very far behind them. 6 days later, Yi Chen appeared at the foot of the windy mountain. After sending the dark brown horse to the horse farm, and paying this year's fee, Yi Chen went directly to the inner court disciple assessment site. Today was the day of the inner court disciple assessment. If he missed it, he would have to wait for another week. At the entrance of the assessment site, there were 2 inner court disciples on duty. When they saw Yi Chen walking towards them, the disciple on the left could not help but say, "Today is already the 13th person. It seems that these outer court disciples have obtained a lot of benefits when they went back. Humph, the person in front of me has weak qi. Obviously, he did not cultivate. He should have swallowed a true condensation pill. True condensation pill can help a martial artist to liquefy their qi faster. Unfortunately, the side effects are also very big. There is no possibility of improvement within a year." Walking to the door, Yi Chen said, "I am here to take the inner court disciple assessment. Go in. I hope you can smoothly pass." The inner court disciple said lazily. Yi Chen did not mind it at all as he walked in. The assessment hall was very spacious. On both sides of the hall, there were 9 stone pillars as thick as a water tank. On top of the pillars, there were carvings of dragons and phoenixes. They looked very lifelike. And in the open space in front of him, there was a wooden frame. Under the wooden frame, there was a bronze bell. The bronze bell was 3 meters tall. It was dark blue in color and looked very heavy. If Yi Chen guessed it right, this was the first assessment to be promoted to an inner court disciple. Whether it was the Sky Cloud Martial School or other sects, in order to become an inner court disciple, one had to go through an assessment. It was not as simple as just reaching the condensing reality realm. After all, there was a big difference between reaching the condensing reality realm and using elixirs to reach the condensing reality realm. The combat power was also not comparable. In order to prevent this from happening, and to ensure that the inner court disciples were elites, the sects had to set up a variety of assessments to ensure that there were no incompetent disciples. The first assessment of the Sky Cloud Martial School's inner court disciple assessment was held in the hall. According to Wu Zongming, the inner court disciple had to punch the bell 10 steps away. If the inner court disciple could not make a sound, then he or she would not be qualified to become an inner court disciple. As for Zhang Haran and Wu Zongming, they had both reached the condensing reality realm on their own. That was why they could easily become inner court disciples. Are you here for the inner court disciple assessment? Please register your identity here. The examiner handed over a piece of paper and a brush. Yi Chen nodded and wrote down his name and background on the paper. All right, go and line up. At this moment, there were 13 people waiting for the assessment. Yi Chen was at the very end of the line. Not long after, the exam elder arrived. Standing at the front, the exam master, who was in his 50s, glanced at the crowd and frowned. What's going on? Why is the inner court disciple Shen Qi so weak? Did they use medicinal pellets to increase their cultivation? I don't care what your cultivation level is right now. If you can't make the bell ring from 10 steps away, then you will not be qualified to become an inner court disciple. If you want to take the assessment again, you will have to wait for 3 months. Then, the exam master took the information from the examiner and said slowly, the assessment begins. First, Lin Chongchong. From the front of the line, an ordinary-looking teenager walked out. He stopped 10 steps away from the bell, took a deep breath and threw out a palm attack. The sound of the wind was extremely fast. The bell did not move at all. The exam master said lightly, failed. Next, Fang Xiaozhong. Hearing the exam master, the teenager named Lin Chongchong's face fell. He walked to the side with his head down. He glanced at the second disciple, hoping that he would also fail. Fang Xiaozhong said to the exam master, "Can I use martial skills?" "Yes." The exam master nodded. Lin Chongchong opened his eyes wide and yelled, "This is not fair. Why didn't anyone tell me I could use martial skills?" The examiner scolded, "How dare you? Don't make any noise in the exam hall. Didn't you ask around before you came?" Lin Chongchong was shocked, he did not dare to say anything. "With your Zhenqi, even if you use martial skills, you will not pass." "Alright, Fang Xiaozhong, start." The exam master did not get angry. Fang Xiaozhong activated his Zhenqi, his palm turned into a claw and attacked. Fierce Tiger Claw. Shoo! The green claw light was the size of a wash basin, it landed heavily on the bronze bell. The bronze bell still did not move. Failed. Next, Zhao Hu. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the exam hall changed. What is going on? Why is the exam so hard? I can't even use martial skills. Oh no, I don't think I can pass either. The rest of the disciples looked at each other, only Yi Chen looked calm. Chapter 54. After Fang Xiaozhong, another 3 disciples failed. All of a sudden, the exam master's face darkened. Next, Wang Xueme. Wang Xueme was about 16 years old. She was not that pretty, but she had a determined look on her face. She responded, walked out of the group, and walked towards the bronze bell step by step. Looking at the girl who just walked out, the exam master's eyes brightened. Although this girl's Zhenqi was a little unstable, it was much better than the previous 5. She must have trained herself, and had been through a lot of hard work. Let's start. The exam master's voice was filled with anticipation. Wang Xueme nodded, she held her right palm in front of her chest and threw out a lightning-fast attack. Whoo! The bronze bell rang once, but because it was so fast, most people did not even hear it. The exam master smiled, Wang Xueme, pass. Phew! Wang Xueme let out a breath of relief. She had been a bit arrogant before, thinking that she could easily shake the bell without using any martial skills. She did not expect that it would only shake a little, and even she could not hear it clearly, let alone the others. It seemed like Wang Xueme had inspired them, for out of the next 7 disciples successfully shook the bell and passed the first test. Next, Yi Chen. Finally, the exam master called out Yi Chen's name. Without giving the others much time to think, Yi Chen casually walked a few steps forward. When he was still quite a distance away from the bronze bell, he threw out a punch in the air. Dong! The bronze bell shook violently, and the sound lingered in the air for a long time. It traveled all the way to the outside of the venue, and even traveled miles. The 2 inner disciples at the door were shocked. Who was this? He had just reached the condensing reality realm and he could already shake the bronze bell and cause such a huge noise. Inside the hall. Did I see it wrong? He was 15 steps away from the bell. No, at least 16 steps. What a monster. Could it be that he had already reached the condensing reality realm and had been hiding all this time? All the disciples who were participating in the test were discussing, all of their attention was on Yi Chen. Yi Chen looked calm. Shaking the bronze bell from a distance was not difficult for him at all. It would be strange if he could not shake it. The exam master paused for a second, then smiled and said, "Good, qualified, qualified." To say, "pass," twice in a row, it could be seen how shocked the exam master was. After the first assessment ended, the second assessment officially began, and the disciples who did not pass were asked to leave. At the back of the assessment hall. This was an open-air field, about 500 square feet. In the center, there was a 20-meter-wide lake. On both sides of the lake, there was a 10-meter-tall wooden bridge. Looking at it as a whole, it looked like a wooden bridge that had been cut off from the middle. It looked extremely strange. The second test is to test your Qin Gong, and Qin Gong is particular about the purity of your Zhen Qi. Now, stand on the wooden frame on the right, and jump to the wooden frame on the opposite side to pass the test. Of course, if you grab the wooden frame with your hands, you will also pass. Raising his head, Yi Chen looked around and realized that the distance between the wooden shelves was the same as the width of the lake, which was about 20 feet, or 66 meters. A normal mortal realm warrior would feel dizzy just by looking at it, not to mention flying across it. Sure enough, except for Wang Xuemei, the faces of the others turned pale. 20 feet, that's too far. My cloud-traversing steps can only allow me to traverse 50 meters in the air at most. I can't go any further. You're lucky, you're training the cloud steps, but I'm training the tiger leap art, which can only allow me to jump 30 meters. What about the other 30 meters? Hearing their discussion, Wang Xuemei's mouth curved into a smile, she looked extremely confident. Just as the exam master was about to announce the start of the assessment, a group of inner disciples came out of the exam hall, all of them were talking and laughing. Why are you guys here? The exam master was a bit annoyed. Master, you don't know that there are very few missions at the end of the year, we've been training too hard. We heard that a lot of people are going to be promoted to inner disciple today, so we came to have a look. One of them seemed to be quite familiar with the exam master, he laughed and said. Alright, if you want to have a look, then have a look. But don't disturb their assessment, or I'll kick you out immediately. Don't worry, when have we caused any trouble for you? The exam master nodded, he cleared his throat and said, First, Wang Xuemei. Hearing him, Wang Xuemei's feet touched the ground, she jumped onto the wooden shelf on the right like a bullet. She took a deep breath, ran a few steps and jumped high into the air like a swallow. 10 meters. 20 meters. 50 meters. 55 meters. When she was 10 meters away from the wooden shelf on the left, Wang Xuemei used up all of her Zhen Qi, her body started to fall rapidly, she was about to fail. Wind connection art. At that critical moment, Wang Xuemei yelled, her body once again jumped out of the air and landed on the wooden shelf. An inner disciple said, to be able to train the wind connection art to this level is already very good. This art allows you to quickly change your Zhen Qi when you use up all of it. Then it was the second disciple's turn. What he practiced was the cloud-traversing steps. When he used it, it was as if he was riding on the clouds, extremely graceful and vigorous. However, due to the limitations of his realm, when he was only 5 meters away from the wooden shelf, he fell into the lake, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws, causing a huge splash. The third disciple was even more ridiculous, he only flew for about 30 meters before he fell back down, which made the crowd laugh. The fourth disciple was quite lucky, he managed to move half a meter forward at that critical moment, he grabbed onto the edge of the wooden shelf, his whole body dangling there. The fifth disciple swallowed his saliva, he asked the exam master, Master, can I step on the water? Step on the water. The exam master looked confused. The wooden shelf was 10 meters high, and jumping on the water was not easy. After all, the water was not like the ground, where one could use it as leverage. Although there is no such rule, if you can jump on it, I will let you pass." The exam master nodded in agreement. His face lit up, the disciple jumped onto the wooden shelf and jumped into the water. Shoo! 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 Like a dragonfly touching the surface of the water, he stepped on the water at an extremely fast speed. His body was as light as a feather. Hee, this must be the floating body art. No wonder he suggested this. But it is not that easy to jump to 10 meters high. A lot of inner disciples saw through the movement art that the disciple was using. They were all curious, they wanted to see how he was going to pass the test. Hey! When he was 5 meters away from the other side of the lake, the disciple's right foot stomped on the water, creating a huge splash. His body shot up into the sky. It is the explosion water spell, no wonder. Yi Chen's eyebrows twitched. He had heard of the explosion water spell. This martial art could condense water in a short period of time, then explode it with Shen Qi, creating a huge force. If that was the case, he could use the explosive force to push his body and easily jump into the sky. The exam master let out a bitter laugh. Pass. Next, Yi Chen. Chapter 55. All of a sudden, everyone's attention was on Yi Chen, because he was the last one. Yi Chen did not feel any pressure. He stretched his body and jumped into the air like a giant bird, lightly landing on the wooden shelf. Just this move alone had shocked all the participating disciples. Let's start. The exam master nodded. Yi Chen's talent was beyond his expectation. In time, he would definitely become one of the top inner disciples. Looking at the wooden shelf 66 meters away, Yi Chen felt that it was so close. When he was at the peak of Mortal Realm Stage 10, he could already fly almost 100 meters in the air. Now that he had reached the condensing reality realm, 150 meters was nothing. If he could train a top-rank Mortal Realm art, 200 meters would only be a matter of time. With a slight whistle, Yi Chen took a step forward. His arms were wide open, just like a rock spreading its wings. His clothes fluttered in the wind. He moved very fast. Shoo! After 2 blinks of an eye, Yi Chen landed on the wooden shelf in front of him. The exam master yelled, "Good, pass." Brother Huang, this Yi Chen's movement art does not seem to be any weaker than yours. No, in terms of movement art, he is already better than me. My only advantage is that my Shen Qi is slightly higher. TSK, the inner disciples can choose any top-rank Mortal Realm art. At that time, the only one who could compete with him in movement art would probably be the flying in the wind Brother Feng. Comparing him with Brother Feng, you guys are overestimating him. Seeing that the second part of the exam had ended, the inner disciples who were watching the exam started to discuss excitedly, each with their own opinions. The exam master looked at the inner disciples who were in the middle of their discussion with a smile. What? Besides him, don't look down on Zhang Haoren and Wu Zhongming, who were promoted to inner disciples a few months ago. Their talents are 1 in a million, 1 in 1,000. That's right. I know that Zhang Haoren, half a month ago, he beat Brother Guo, who was famous for his powerful attacks. A lot of people are still talking about him. This guy is arrogant, but he does have what it takes. Soon. It was time for the third test. There was another space behind the open-air field. It was an existence similar to an ancient arena. The center of the field had been dug out, and it looked like a circular swimming pool without any water. On the rock wall at the edge of the field, there were 8 black holes several meters in size, which were sealed with iron gates. The third test is to fight with demonic beasts. Those who can last for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn will pass and officially become an inner disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School. The exam master said to the remaining 4 people. The disciple next to Wang Xuemei asked, "Elder, may I know what level the demonic beast is?" Level 3. Ah. Rank 3 demonic beast. The disciple's face turned pale. If his opponent was an early condensing reality realm warrior, he would not be afraid, but a rank 3 demonic beast was different. Compared to human warriors, demonic beasts were born with powerful bodies and fierce auras. Under the same cultivation situation, demonic beasts were undoubtedly more powerful than human warriors. The exam master sneered, "You are afraid." The disciple did not say anything. "If I am afraid of a rank 3 demonic beast, how can I survive in the martial world in the future? You know, the scariest thing in the martial world is not the demonic beasts, not the powerful warriors, but the human heart. The evil people are 10 times, even 100 times scarier than the demonic beasts. They can kill without spilling blood." The exam master said. Wang Xueme looked at the disciple with disdain, and said, "Elder, I am willing to be the first one to take the test." The exam master liked Wang Xueme quite a bit. He smiled, "Since you have just reached the condensing reality realm, of course we will not use the powerful rank 3 demonic beasts. The rank 3 demonic beasts for this test are Iron Claw demonic wolf, Leopard Tail wolf, Blood Pattern bear, and Black-shelled cow. Iron Claw demonic wolf. Leopard Tail wolf. Blood Pattern bear. Black-shelled cow. It is indeed not that powerful, it is only as powerful as a normal early condensing reality realm warrior." An inner disciple said. "All right, the test starts now. Wang Xueme, you are the first one." Wang Xueme jumped down. She looked at the black hole that was sealed by the iron gate. She could feel an evil aura locked onto her. "Ready?" The exam master walked to the mechanism and asked. Wang Xueme nodded. Crack. Crack. As the exam master opened the mechanism, the iron gate slowly rose up, revealing the inside of the black hole bit by bit. Whoa! Before the iron gate was fully opened, a huge black shadow jumped out of it, carrying a horrifying demonic aura towards Wang Xueme. Cloak blade art. Wang Xueme did not panic. She took out 2 short blades from her waist, and threw them out in a cross shape, landing on the black shadow's body. Chin. Sparks flew everywhere. The black shadow showed its real body. It was a calf-sized demonic wolf. Its fur was pitch black, and its eyes were red with a hint of green. Its huge mouth was slightly open, revealing its hideous canine teeth. Right then, its front paws were on the blades. It was fighting against Wang Xueme. "Piss off." Infusing her Jin Qi into the short blades, Wang Xueme yelled in a low voice. Her body suddenly twisted, the blades were spinning like a spinning top. Shoo! The Iron Claw demonic wolf was extremely agile. It jumped out of the way, then jumped at Wang Xueme from another angle. It was sly yet cautious, but at the same time, it could not hide its natural brutality. Wang Xueme seemed to have experience in fighting against rank 3 beasts. She did not panic, nor was she greedy. Basically, she was using the strategy of blocking when the enemy came. The 2 short blades danced in the air so that not even a drop of water could get through. She protected her body, and from time to time, her blades would collide with the Iron Claw demonic wolf's claws, creating beautiful sparks. 1 person and 1 beast were evenly matched. Soon, the time it took for an incense stick to burn was up. Wang Xueme, you have passed the exam. Congratulations on becoming an inner disciple of the Sky Cloud Martial School. The exam master made a gesture with his right hand, and the Iron Claw demonic wolf was grabbed by an invisible giant hand, and sent into the black hole. Then, the iron gate was closed, and the wolf could no longer come out. Wiping the sweat off her forehead, Wang Xueme was a little shocked. This Iron Claw demonic wolf had been locked up for too long, and it was even more ferocious than normal Iron Claw demonic wolves. If she had not been trained like this in her family, she would not have been able to get out alive. Luckily, she had finally made it through. Now, she was officially an inner disciple, and was qualified to learn top-rank Mortal Realm manuals. In the future, she would be able to take on missions from the school, and travel around the world like the other inner disciples, making a name for herself. The next one to take the exam was the male disciple who did not perform well before. His opponent was the leopard-tail wolf, which was famous for its speed and brutality. Within 10 breaths, the male disciple had been scratched by the leopard-tail wolf and fell to the ground. At that critical moment, the exam master had saved him, but it also meant that he had lost the chance to become an inner disciple. If he wanted to take the exam again, he would have to wait for another 3 months. Then, it was the disciple who had passed the second exam with the exploding water spell. Although his flying art was not as good as the others, his attacking power was not bad. The blood pattern bear, which was not very agile, obviously could not hurt him at all. Instead, it was hit a couple of times, but of course, it did not care at all. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the second inner disciple was born. Yi Chen, it's your turn. The exam master was not worried about Yi Chen anymore. The only thing he was worried about was whether or not he could beat the beast, or if he could survive the time it took for an incense stick to burn like the previous two. Yi Chen did not know what the exam master was thinking, so he jumped into the air and jumped down quickly. Chapter 56. The iron gate opened, and a majestic shadow with an extremely oppressive aura walked out. Moo! The black shadow roared into the sky. It was a demonic bull covered in black armor, with 2 horns that looked like sharp blades. The demonic bull was 2.5 meters tall, its eyes were as big as bells, and its nose was blowing out a whirlwind like air. Its hooves had sharp claws that were curved like blades, shining with a cold light. The black shell bull is the most powerful beast among the 3. It was born with great strength, and its defense is extremely high. It will be very hard to beat it. I think it can only last for another 30 minutes. Obviously, the crowd did not think that Yi Chen could beat the black shell bull. After all, even some of the inner disciples could not break through the black shell bull's defense in a short time, not to mention Yi Chen who had just reached the condensing reality realm. Different from the iron-clawed demonic wolf and the blood-pattern bear, the black shell bull did not attack immediately. It kept its right hooves on the ground, and stared at Yi Chen with its bell-sized eyes. It lowered its body slightly. Tat 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 tat, after charging up, the black shell bull's body suddenly emitted a dark gray demonic chi. The dense demonic chi covered it completely, only revealing its 2 bloody red eyes. Then it started to move its hooves, and with a horrifying pressure, it charged towards Yi Chen, trying to kill him with 1 hit. At this moment, Yi Chen moved. The muscles on his right arm swelled, and he clenched his fist, pointing it forward. When the black shell bull was only half a meter away from him, Yi Chen let out a low growl, and punched through the demonic chi, landing heavily on the black shell bull's forehead. Boom! The hard rock ground cracked open, and the black shell bull's huge body was suddenly pressed into the ground. It was bleeding from every orifice, and its limbs were twitching. Killing the black shell bull with 1 punch. Gasp! The inner disciples who were watching the battle gasped, they were shocked. Wang Xuemei murmured, "How can there be such a freak?" After a while, the exam master praised him, "Well done. With your potential and talent, it will not be hard for you to make a name for yourself in the future. You might even be able to compete with the geniuses from other martial institutions, and bring glory to our Sky Cloud Martial School." Yi Chen's face did not turn red nor was he out of breath. Just now, he had only used 70 to 80% of his strength, it could not be said to be strenuous. Hearing this, he said, "Elder, you flatter me. It doesn't matter if you've won or not. Everything depends on your own hard work. Otherwise, no matter how talented you are, your achievements will be limited. In the past 20 years, I've seen many unknown disciples soar to the skies, and I've also seen many talented disciples slowly fall. I hope you're not the next one." The exam master did not know how many times he had placed his hopes on Yi Chen, but unfortunately, in the end, only a few people were able to fulfill his expectations. However, Yi Chen was one of the people he had high hopes for, and he sincerely hoped that he could grow up and take charge of his own affairs. "Alright, Now that the inner court disciple assessment is over, the three of you, follow me to collect your inner court disciple waste tokens, clothing and other things. The rest of you are dismissed. In the side hall of the examination hall. According to your body shape, each of you can pick 3 sets of inner court disciple robes. In the future, if any of them are torn, you can come here to change them. The exam master opened one of the rows of cabinets and said to Yi Chen and the other 2. Yi Chen fixed his eyes on the cabinet. It was huge, divided into 12 compartments, and in each compartment, there were 10 sets of white robes. All of them were of different sizes, and the sizes were marked on the outside. The 3 of them were very familiar with their own sizes, so they quickly picked out their robes. Then, the exam master brought the 3 of them to the armory, and let them pick out the weapons they liked. Yi Chen picked out a 4 feet long great sword, named Hidden Cloud. It was as famous as the colorful snow blade from the North Snow Martial Academy and the crystal sword from the Emerald Martial Palace. They were all extremely powerful weapons. Wang Xuemei picked out 2 dark purple short knives, named Purple Deer. The other disciple was not good with weapons, so he randomly picked out a dagger that could cut through iron like it was mud. At this moment, the exam master took out 3 dark blue colored tags from the box next to him. They looked like they were made of wood or iron, and seemed to be a bit heavy. Remember, you can't just throw away an inner court disciple tag. It represents your identity, and it is also the proof of your training in the outside world. When you are in danger, you can show the tag, and it might be able to save you. On the other hand, if you lose the tag and get killed, the Sky Cloud Martial School won't be able to handle it. You have to remember this. The exam master warned. Yes. The 3 of them nodded. Picking up a tag, the exam master concentrated his power on his fingers, and started writing on the back of the tag. His Zhen Qi rubbed against the tag, and a light cyan smoke came out. After writing on the first tag, the exam master picked up the second one. Soon, all 3 tags had been written with names, so it was useless for others to take them. Taking over the tag, Yi Chen subconsciously used 60% of his power, trying to test the tag's toughness. The result was out of his expectation. There was no mark on the tag at all. Yi Chen did not believe it. He combined all of his Zhen Qi with his strong power and poured it into his fingertips, and pressed on the tag. Sizzle. A thin layer of white smoke came out, but the tag was still undamaged. Releasing his Zhen Qi, Yi Chen couldn't help but admire the exam master's profound cultivation. He was able to write the names of the 3 of them on the tag so easily. If that finger had landed on his body, it would definitely have pierced a bloody hole. Now, come with me to the ranking Jade Wall. That is the place every inner court disciple has to go to. The ranking Jade Wall. The 3 of them had heard of this place, but they had never been there. The palace in the middle of the mountain was called the Floating Cloud Palace. It was the place where the inner court disciples could take on missions. Outside of the palace was a huge square that was paved with white marble. On the side of the square, there was a jade wall that was 1 meter tall and 1 meter wide. It was completely white with a hint of cyan, and there were many wooden tags hanging on it. Right now, there were a lot of inner court disciples standing under the jade wall. They all raised their heads to look at the positions of the wooden tags and the names on them. Zhang Haoran actually climbed up another 10 places. He's now at 285th place. That Wu Zhongming is not bad either. He is now 333rd. The most impressive one is still senior sister Su Jing. She jumped from 23rd to 8th among the core disciples, and finally made it to the top of the Jade Wall. While everyone was talking, Yi Chen and the other 2 followed the exam master to the Jade Wall. Greetings, Elder Tang. Are these 3 newly promoted inner court disciples? Although the exam master was only an outer court master, he was very powerful, even more powerful than the inner court masters. On top of that, he was a kind and friendly person, and was highly respected and loved by everyone. The exam master nodded, and said with a smile, "You guys have to work hard. Some of them have great potential. I think they are not below the top 400. Hee, we are working hard every day, don't worry, Elder Tang. Yi Chen didn't care about the others' conversation, he just carefully observed the huge jade wall. On the surface of the jade wall, there were many wooden tags, roughly divided into 29 rows. Each row could hold up to 20 tags, with different names written on them. Among them, Wu Zhongming and Zhang Haran were in the list, they were the third on the 17th row, and the 15th on the 14th row. The first and second rows were the wooden tags of the core disciples, they were bright red in color, bright and eye-catching, above everyone else. The third row was for the top 10 inner court disciples, their wooden tags were light red, which meant that they had the ability to become a core disciple, and replace the position of the core disciples. The fourth row was for the inner court disciples with the most number of people, their wooden tags were dark cyan, similar to the inner court disciples' tags. Chapter 57. The three of you, write your name on the empty wooden plate and hang it at the end. The exam master pointed at the last row of empty wooden plates and said. Yi Chen took down the empty wooden plate, and just like the others, he gathered his strength on his fingers and slowly carved two words, Yi Chen, and then hung it back. The exam master rubbed his temples and said, the rules of the ranking, I will not talk about these trivial things, you can ask your senior brothers and sisters, they will tell you everything. If there is nothing else, I will leave for now. After the exam master left, the male disciple who had just been promoted to an inner disciple immediately asked, Senior brothers and sisters, my name is Li Sheng. May I ask, what is the use of the ranking, and how do we rank? One of the inner disciples explained, to be honest, the ranking does not have any practical use, but if you really think that it is useless, then you are completely wrong. First of all, the ranking can stimulate the competitive spirit, no one wants to be ranked lower than others, and no one can just casually get a high rank. If you want to rush to the top, you have to rely on hard work and power. Of course, there are some people who are willing to give up, but after all, it is very rare, almost negligible. After all, it is not easy to become an inner disciple, everyone knows how hard it is. Most importantly, at the end of the year, the inner disciples who are ranked out of the top 500 will lose their inner disciple status, and become outer disciples again. If you want to recover, you will have to wait for half a year, and before that, there have already been 11 inner disciples who have been removed from the ranking. What a cruel competition! Yi Chen thought more deeply than the others. After listening to the exam master, it did not seem like a big deal, since only those who were ranked out of the top 500 would be removed from the ranking, as long as they were not too bad, then they would definitely be able to stay on the ranking. But the problem was, the inner disciples who were not ranked out of the top 500 would definitely not be willing to be removed from the ranking, so they would try their best to climb up. When a person managed to get into the top 500, they would be afraid of being pulled down by others, so they would definitely continue to work hard and fight for a higher rank, only then would they be safe. But this way, the other people who were pulled down would be anxious. Who would want to be ranked out of the top 500? Of course not, so they would also try their best to climb up, the higher the ranking, the better. In the end, the entire list would become a chaotic battle, and only a small portion of people would be spared. Another inner disciple continued, the rules of the ranking are very simple, you can challenge each other, but the condition is that the challengers must be in the same row. For example, a disciple in the 29th row can only challenge an inner disciple in the 29th row, and once he becomes the first disciple in the 29th row, he can challenge an inner disciple in the 28th row. Apart from that, there will be an inner disciple ranking competition in the middle of the year, and it will be a big event. The entire ranking list will be cleaned, and some inner disciples who are afraid of being challenged will have no reason to avoid it. I see. Li Sheng sized up Yi Chen, his heart filled with envy. With Yi Chen's strength, it should be easy for him to make it into the top 400. It was unlikely that he would be eliminated, but Li Sheng would be in danger. At this time, a rather good-looking senior sister reminded them, I suggest that you take on a few missions from the sect first, and then challenge other inner disciples. You have to know that if you have not experienced danger or killed before, it will have a great impact on your combat power, and the inner disciples who are challenged will not show mercy. That's right, being challenged will always make people unhappy. Those with good tempers might make you vomit blood, but those with bad tempers might make you lie in bed for a while. This is very common. Suddenly, a noise came from the front of the plaza. Everyone looked over and saw two young men with blood all over their clothes, carrying another young man whose life or death was unknown. What happened to junior brother Liang? Someone hurriedly asked. The one on the left wiped his tears. The disciples of the Purple Sun Martial School are too much. We were the ones who found the mission first, but they snatched it away and even tried to attack us. In order to protect us, senior brother Liang was punched 3 times and kicked 4 times, he is seriously injured. Fuck, those bastards from the Purple Sun Martial School, just you wait, I will teach them a lesson when I get the chance. They are so cruel, they snatched the mission and still want to attack us. Hearing the angry voices of the crowd, Yi Chen started to feel the pressure of being a martial disciple. Inside the martial school, he had to fight for the ranking, but outside of the martial school, he had to face the provocations of other martial school disciples. If he was even a little bit careless, he could be killed or injured. Of course, this was not the only danger. Many of those underground martial artists had suffered at the hands of the martial schools before, and if they had the chance, they would definitely try to assassinate the martial school disciples. Seeing this, Wang Xuemei knew that she was not powerful enough. She bit her lips, turned around and walked away quietly. Let's go to the pavilion of martial skills first. After becoming an inner disciple, he had half a year to train freely. Although he did not have to wait for half a year, he would definitely choose to train a couple of top-rank Mortal Realm martial arts. Even the King Kong Fist and the Golden Goose art seemed to be of a low rank. In the pavilion of martial skills. Master, we meet again. This time, Yi Chen greeted the master first, and showed him his inner disciple tag. The pavilion elder exclaimed, an inner disciple token. Good boy. Hee, I just got promoted. Now I can go to the second floor, right? There is no time limit, right? Yi Chen laughed. Of course not, go ahead. After saying this, the pavilion master was stunned for a long time, then he said to himself, this kid is a genius, he was only at Mortal Realm Stage 4 at that time. Second floor. Standing at the entrance, Yi Chen thought to himself, from now on, I can stay here as long as I want. How great! There were not that many top-rank Mortal Realm martial arts, there were only about 100 of them. But to choose one that was suitable for him, it would be a bit difficult. First of all, he would have to choose a martial art. Before, the pure Yuan art had brought a lot of benefits to Yi Chen, so this time, he would still choose this type of Zhen Qi martial art. Although the Mystic Gravity spell had special effects like the Mystic Gravity Field, it could only be used in close combat, so the overall evaluation would not be that high. 3 Purple Qi Flower spell, a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. Once trained to the 3rd stage, a purple Zhen Qi flower will appear on top of your head. At the 5th stage, 2 purple Zhen Qi flowers will appear on top of your head. At the highest stage, the 7th stage, Zhen Qi will reach the peak of the 3 purple flowers. Azure River spell, a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. Once trained to the 7th stage, 1 purple Zhen Qi flower will appear on top of your head. At the 5th stage, 2 purple Zhen Qi flowers will appear on top of your head. At the highest stage, the 7th stage will allow you to complete your Zhen Qi and gather all 3 flowers above your head. Azure River spell, a top-rank Mortal Realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. Once trained to the 7th stage, the user will be able to gather the surrounding water Yuan Qi and increase the power of his attacks. If trained to the 7th stage, the user will be able to increase the power of his attacks. If trained to the 3rd stage, the user will be able to use the power of thunder and lightning to paralyze the user's body. After reading 3 martial arts in a row, Yi Chen couldn't help but sigh. They were indeed top-rank mortal realm martial arts, every single one of them was extremely powerful. They were definitely not something a top-rank mortal realm martial art could compare with. The main reason why he was able to beat Huang Bingwen was that Huang Bingwen's cultivation was not high enough, otherwise he would have already killed him. As for beating Yi Tang and Yi Xian, it was all because of his powerful physical strength. His cultivation did not play much of a role. Thinking about it, Yi Chen felt lucky. If he only had these three martial arts to choose from, he would definitely choose the wind and thunder art. This martial art had a great effect on his movement skills, and in the later stages, it would be able to bring out the power of thunder and lightning. In his hands, it would definitely be able to bring out its full potential. However, it was still too early to choose, there might be better martial arts that he had not seen yet. Chapter 58. On the second floor of the Pavilion of Martial Arts. Yi Chen picked up all the manuals one by one and put them back. These manuals were actually quite good, they all had their own strengths. For example, some could recover qi fast, which was good for prolonged battles, some could explode Jin qi, which was good for quick fights, some were good for defense, which was good for warriors who like to fight head-on, and some had special effects, such as the mysterious heavy qi field of the art of martial arts, or the art of grafting. All in all, none of the manuals that could reach the top-rank mortal realm were useless. Seeing that he was about to go through all the manuals on the second floor, Yi Chen finally found one that he was very satisfied with. Pure Jun Jin Qi, a top-rank mortal realm martial art, divided into 7 stages. According to the legends, it was the exclusive martial art of the Clear Stream Sword School 2000 years ago. The first 4 stages focused on training Jin Qi, which could create sharpness, the 5th stage could create Qi Light, which could kill people within 10 steps, the 6th stage could go 1 step further, creating a protective Qi Light, which could attack and defend at the same time. The highest stage was the 7th stage, where all of the Jin Qi in one's body could be combined into one, and one could create Qi swords with just a wave of one's hand, which could injure people from 100 steps away. Great, this is it. Yi Chen felt that there was no need to keep searching, this pure Jun Jin Qi was definitely a good fit for him. After deciding on the martial art, the next step was the flying art. The Golden Swallow art was only a high-rank mortal realm martial art, but even Yi Chen did not dare to ignore it. In other words, if he did not have the Golden Swallow art, his only trump card would be his physical strength, but he did not want to reveal too much about the pure Jade body-boosting spell. Now that there was an opportunity to choose a top-rank mortal realm flying art, Yi Chen would not let it go. Moving Shadows. Flying Wind Spell. 7-star Cloud Flying Art. Crane Shadow Steps. All kinds of movement art manuals appeared in front of Yi Chen's eyes, he was almost dazzled by them. Shifting shadows, as the name suggests, allows one to shift one's body in a very short period of time to confuse the enemy's eyes and ears. Wind riding art, allows the cultivator's body to become light and strong, as fast as the wind. 7-star cloud soaring art, allows the cultivator to step on the 7 stars, allowing the cultivator to travel 1,000 miles. Crane shadow steps, allows the cultivator to disappear without a trace. It didn't take long for Yi Chen to choose the crane shadow steps, just like how he chose the golden swallow skill. Finally, Yi Chen picked out a fist art manual. As for the sword art, he did not need it for now. The Lone Peak of 13 Swords was more than enough, since the complete Lone Peak of 13 Swords was also a top-rank mortal realm martial art. After leaving the martial skill pavilion, Yi Chen went straight back to his courtyard. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Early in the morning, a thin mist shrouded half of the Breeze Mountain. On a remote cliff, hissing sounds could be heard without end, dense and rapid. A gust of wind blew past, and the mist became thinner. A human figure could be vaguely seen standing there. In front of him was a huge rock, 3 meters tall, and had a black color. The sound came from the human figure. If you looked closely, you would find that the mist around him could not even get within 3 feet of him, as if there was an invisible chi shield around him. Not only that, all the mist that got close to him was shredded into strands and strands. At first glance, it looked like the steam from boiling water. The human figure was, of course, Yi Chen. Right now, his eyes were slightly closed, and he was using all of his pure Junjin Qi. After a long time, Yi Chen moved. With a wave of his hand, an invisible Qi light flew out of his hand and landed on the huge rock. Poof! Stone chips flew everywhere, and a half-foot-long mark appeared on the surface of the huge rock. The edge of the mark was as sharp as a knife. Poof! 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 The first Qi ray was already extraordinarily swift and fierce, but the following Qi rays were even more powerful. Every one of them was narrow and sharp, curved like a knife, and slashed at the huge rock, cutting out countless crisscrossing cracks. It was a ghastly sight. Zhen Qi like a blade, is this the 6th level of pure Junjin Qi? Looking at the scarred boulder, Yi Chen felt a little emotional. Half a year ago, his full-strength attack was only this powerful, but now, he could casually send out dozens or even hundreds of them, and still have strength left over. If this dense Qi aura hit a human body, they would be minced into meat paste. Intending to test the power of the Qi light, Yi Chen took a deep breath and straightened his right hand like a blade, waving it in the air. Ka-cha! In the blink of an eye, the huge rock was pierced through, and a hair-thin crack quickly spread out. At the same time, Yi Chen walked towards the boulder. When the distance between the two was less than 3 feet, the surface of the giant rock slowly caved in, and the dark brown stone powder sputtered out in a spiral shape, covering the ground. A moment later, Yi Chen was almost pressed against the rock. When he stepped back and left, he saw an oval depression on the surface of the huge rock. The surface was smooth and exquisite as if it had been meticulously polished. Good, this protective Qi aura is amazing. Yi Chen let out a sigh. The so-called Qi light was actually made up of countless sharp air currents. Any object that got close to it would be shattered into pieces. If one's Zhen Qi cultivation reached a certain level, even a well-tempered weapon would not be able to get close to it, and would be shattered into pieces. However, it was not easy to train to the 6th level of pure Junjin Qi. In the past 1.5 months, Yi Chen had trained his Zhen Qi for a total of 108 times. After every training, he would break it again and again. Every time, he would be exhausted and sweating profusely. Of course, it was all worth it. The power of the pure Junjin Qi had already been demonstrated. It was way more powerful than most of the Zhen Qi, and it was only at the 6th level. If he could train it to the 7th level, he would be able to use his Zhen Qi to create Qi swords. By then, he would be able to kill his enemies from hundreds of steps away, which was way more powerful than any other martial skill. Unfortunately, the more powerful a martial art was, the harder it was to train it. Although Yi Chen's comprehensive ability was already on the top, he was not confident that he could reach the 7th level in a short period of time, not to mention the peak of the 7th level, the completed pure Junjin Qi. I should train the crane shadow steps first. According to the rumors, there was a huge mountain in the west of the true spirit continent. There were thousands of years old spirit cranes living on the mountain. The wingspan of the spirit cranes was more than 100 meters, covering the whole sky. Every time it flew over the forest, a large number of trees would be broken. When it flew over the ocean, the waves would be hundreds of meters high, and when it flew over the desert, countless sandstorms would appear and drown everything. The 1,000-years-old spirit cranes were not demonic beasts. Some people said they were divine birds, while others said they were rare species that were raised by powerful ancient martial artists. All kinds of rumors added to the mystery of the spirit cranes. Therefore, every year, a lot of people would travel to the west of the true spirit continent, hoping to catch a glimpse of the spirit cranes. Whether it was true or not, the 1,000-years-old spirit cranes had been around for thousands of years. That was why they were called the spirit cranes. 200 years ago, a flying artist came to the west of the true spirit continent from thousands of miles away just like other people. After waiting for years, he finally saw the spirit cranes. Although the wingspan of the spirit cranes was less than 30 meters, it was still very magical. It could easily tear a small mountain apart with its claws, and when it jumped, it was impossible for the naked eye to follow it. With one leap, it could travel 10 miles. After being amazed, the flying artist spent years observing the spirit crane's movements every day, and finally created a powerful flying art. This flying art was called the crane shadow steps. However, no one had ever seen the spirit cranes before, so they could not bring out the essence of the crane shadow steps. This caused the crane shadow steps to decline, and eventually, it dropped to the top rank mortal realm. Coincidentally, the crane shadow steps manual was found by an inner elder of the Sky Cloud Martial School, and was stored in the Martial Skill Pavilion for his disciples to practice. Chapter 59. This secret was heard by Yi Chen from the Pavilion Master. The Pavilion Master was one of the practitioners of the crane shadow steps. According to him, with his peak-level early clasping Yuan realm cultivation, if he performed the crane shadow steps with all his strength, he could reach 200 meters in one leap, which was more than half the speed of sound. However, even the Pavilion Master could not fully understand the essence of the crane shadow steps, so he had to train a low-rank Earth realm movement art called the Flowing Light Movement Art, which allowed him to travel up to 250 meters in a blink of an eye, which was 50 meters faster than the crane shadow steps. 250 meters, more than 3 times of mine. Yi Chen thought that he was very good at movement art. He could travel 70 to 80 meters in a blink of an eye, and normal mortal realm warriors would not even be able to see his shadow. However, compared to the Pavilion Master, the difference was obvious. If the Pavilion Master wanted to kill Yi Chen, it would only take him one attack. Forcing a laugh, Yi Chen knew that he was biting off more than he could chew. What kind of cultivation did the Pavilion Master have, and what kind of cultivation did he have? The two could not be compared at all. Once he reached the clasping Yuan realm, 250 meters might not be that shocking anymore. Without further ado, Yi Chen took out the crane shadow steps manual from his storage ring and started to read from the first page. There were 3 key points to training the crane shadow steps. The first was the body movement, the second was the chi flow, and the third was the mentality. The body movement and the chi flow were not that important, but the mentality was the key. The practitioner had to imagine that they were one with the crane, that they could activate the mysterious potential in their body and increase their speed to a new level. It sounded easy. Wasn't it just fantasizing? Anyone with a bit of imagination could do it. However, fantasizing was just fantasizing. There were very, very few people who could really stimulate the potential in their bodies. There was less than 1 in 10,000, and there might not even be 1 in 100,000. It should be known that the human body was one of the most complicated objects in the world. Its mysteries could not be seen through in one's entire life. Only the 5th great realm of martial artists, the spirit ocean realm, could see the surface of it, understand some of the rules of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and apply it to themselves to slow down the aging process, living for hundreds of years. One more step would be the 6th great realm of martial artists, the life and death realm. Martial artists could completely stimulate the potential of the human body, reverse life and death, and break through the limit of life allowed by the world, living for more than 1,000 years. However, once one reached this realm, with every increase in cultivation, he would have to endure the heavenly punishment, such as the heavenly thunder tribulation, the wind and fire tribulation, or the Yuan spirit tribulation. Each tribulation had countless changes, and each change was divided into different levels. After passing through, one could continue to comprehend the heavenly Tao, preparing to step into the legendary 7th great realm of martial artists. Su King, Xian Ho, the Evil King, and the Dragon King were all martial artists who had stepped into the life and death realm. They had a lifespan of 1,000 years, and the potential in their bodies had been fully unleashed. If they were to learn the crane shadow steps, they would be able to master it without much effort. Unfortunately, with their status and power, they would not be interested in the crane shadow steps manual. Perhaps even 1,000-years-old spirit crane was nothing in their eyes. Of course, stimulating one's potential was only one of the profound mysteries of the human body. It was not the whole thing. After 1,000 years, one would still die completely. Let's not talk about this for now. Yi Chen let out a sigh when he thought about how to stimulate the potential of the human body. Although he only needed a tiny bit of it, he still sighed. No wonder so many people couldn't understand the essence of the crane shadow steps. After all, they had never seen a spirit crane before, so how could they understand the habits and concept of a spirit crane? Whatever, even without the spiritual perspective of the spirit crane, the crane shadow steps was still one of the best top-rank mortal realm movement art. A lot of people wanted to learn it but couldn't. After the slight disappointment, Yi Chen's fighting spirit was reignited. The first thing he needed to do was to master the crane shadow steps to its peak. Everything else could wait. It was said that there was no sun or moon in the mountains, and it was not a lie at all. A month's time had passed while Yi Chen was diligently practicing the crane shadow steps. Maybe it was because the crane shadow steps could stimulate one's potential, or maybe it was because hardworking people tended to grow faster, but Yi Chen, who was only 15 years old, had grown from 1.7 meters to 1.75 meters. Although he was a little skinny, he did not look skinny at all when he took off his clothes. He had broad shoulders and a narrow waist, and the muscles on his arms and chest were extremely strong. Just by standing there, he had an awe-inspiring aura. After a month of training, Yi Chen had completely mastered the crane shadow steps. His pure Jun Zhen Qi had also reached the peak of the 6th stage, and his protective Qi layer had turned from transparent to light green. Now, he could just casually use the crane shadow steps to fly to the sea of clouds on the other side of the cliff, and then use his protective Qi layer to cut open a path, then turn back. It was as if he had really turned into a spirit crane, and the gravity could no longer restrict his body. Now, I can reach 100 meters in one leap, and with the protective Qi layer on the outside and the pure Jade body boosting spell on the inside, my power has almost doubled. If I meet that Cui Shiming again, I should be able to beat him within 3 attacks. But he is only a normal mid-condensing reality realm warrior, he is not a genius, and most of his martial skills have not been mastered yet, so they are not worth mentioning. If I meet a peak early condensing reality realm warrior who has mastered a few martial skills, it would still be very difficult for me to beat him. Too bad I don't have the chance to test it out, otherwise I would know what my real power level is, and what my limit is. Yi Chen calculated in his mind, but he was still not sure. He thought of himself as a genius, but the true spirit continent did not lack geniuses. Before him, there was Xian Ho, who had reached the life and death realm at the age of 10, and was on the same level as Su King. After him, there were the top 4 childs of the Windy Nation. They were called the top 4 childs because they were talented in all aspects, otherwise, it would be hard to convince the public. Of course, Yi Chen only admired the top 4 childs of the Windy Nation, but it was not enough to move him. The Windy Nation was only a small nation in the South Shore region, and there were 24 small nations in the South Shore region, 10 medium-sized nations, and 3 large nations. Even a small nation like the Windy Nation had people like the top 4 childs, it was not hard to imagine how powerful the other nations that were bigger than the Windy Nation would be. Not to mention the others, the Rudra Nation, which was right next to the Windy Nation, did not take the Windy Nation seriously at all. They often sent out soldiers to harass the borders of the Windy Nation, or asked their soldiers to dress up as bandits to rob the caravans of the Windy Nation. Besides the national power, the Rudra Nation had always been full of geniuses. Sometimes, they even had more geniuses than most of the small nations, and could even be compared with the medium-sized nations. If it were not for the top 4 childs, the Windy Nation would have already become a laughing stock. Dang, 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 right then, a series of bell ringing came from the middle of the windy mountain, shaking hundreds of miles. Yi Chen's eyebrows twitched. In the Sky Cloud Martial School, only the floating cloud palace would ring the bell. For example, during the inner disciple exam, it did not count as ringing the bell, it was just smashing the bell. There was a huge difference between the two. There must be a lot of missions from the school. No matter what, I have to go check it out first. His body blurred, and the next second, Yi Chen had already flown to a big tree 100 meters away. He flashed a couple of times, then disappeared without a trace. Chapter 60. Inside the majestic floating cloud palace, there were hundreds of disciples gathered, and from time to time, there would be other disciples arriving. Stepping into the palace, Yi Chen looked up. The palace was still empty even though there were hundreds of people gathered there. The floor was paved with green steel stones, and on both sides of the walls, there were 9 stone pillars that reached the sky. They were green with a hint of red, and each of them had a flying dragon carved on them. Inside the stone pillars, there was a jade wall every 30 steps, and the jade walls were covered with paper. Yi Chen, you are here too. A person walked in from outside the palace. It was Wu Zongming. He already knew that Yi Chen had been promoted to an inner disciple, so he did not look surprised. Yi Chen turned around and said, I have been training for 3 months, and I felt that I would not be able to make any more progress in a short period of time, so I came to have a look. Wu Zongming laughed, I can't compare to you, I had to train for 5 months before I dared to take on the mission. Oh right, this is your first time here, so you might not know much about the school missions, let me tell you about them. Thank you. Yi Chen indeed wanted to know more about the school missions. There are actually 2 types of school missions. One is the bounty missions that are entrusted to the school by other forces. For example, a small family can't do something, so they can spend a lot of money to entrust the school with the task. Then, the school will evaluate the difficulty of the mission and give it to their disciples. The other type is the school missions that are assigned by the school themselves, also known as the school missions. The rewards of the school missions might not be as high as the bounty missions, but you can get a small amount of soul stones. So if you want to know what kind of mission it is, you just have to look at the rewards. The bounty missions can only get you gold, while the school missions can get you both gold and soul stones. Yi Chen nodded, so that's how it is. Also, according to the difficulty, the missions are divided into several levels. The lowest level is the white mission, which is suitable for early condensing reality realm warriors, the gray mission, which is suitable for mid-condensing reality realm warriors, and the black mission, which is usually only accepted by late condensing reality realm warriors. As for the black mission, it is the elder mission, which is not something we can look at anymore. Now, look at the color of the jade walls, and you will know the level of the mission. Wu Zongming pointed at the jade walls in the palace. Hearing Wu Zongming, Yi Chen took a closer look and found that the 2 jade walls near the door were white in color, which meant that the missions on them should be white missions. According to the rules of the left side and the right side, the one on the left side of the door was for the school missions, and the one on the right side was for the bounty missions. Behind them were 2 gray jade walls, and behind the gray jade walls were 2 black jade walls. There were the least number of disciples standing there, only 7 or 8 of them. Most of them were at the late condensing reality realm, and there were even some core disciples among them. Clearing his throat, Wu Zongming continued, besides that, the missions of the same level are also divided into different levels of difficulty. They are 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and the highest 5-star difficulty. With my current strength, I can only take on 3-star white missions. 4-star missions would be life-threatening, and 5-star missions would basically be a one-way trip. Yi Chen asked, can we form a team to complete the missions? Wu Zongming nodded and said, that's right. For example, I can only take on 3-star white missions. If I want to take on a 4-star white mission, would have to find 1 or 2 inner disciples who are at the same level as me. In this way, once the mission is completed, I would be able to get more rewards than the previous 3-star white missions. Oh, is that so? Hearing Wu Zongming's explanation, Yi Chen's interest in the school missions had increased a lot. However, he did not plan to form a team with anyone yet. He would think about it in the future. Alright, I will go and say hello to a few of my senior disciples. I have teamed up with them last time. Wu Zongming saw that Yi Chen had basically understood the situation, so he did not waste any more time. Yi Chen thanked him again. After Wu Zongming left, Yi Chen first walked to the white jade wall on the right. Just as he expected, the white jade wall on the right had a bounty mission written on it. The reward was only gold, there were no soul stones. He looked down from above. On the first piece of paper, there was a black skull, and below the skull, there were words. Mission: eliminate the skeleton bandit group. Crimes: robbing passing merchants, killing people for their goods, raping women, heinous crimes. Strength analysis: the leader of the horse gang is a peak early condensing reality realm warrior. The second and third leaders are experienced early condensing reality realm warriors. They have 30 to 40 people, and dozens of powerful bows. Mission difficulty: 5 stars reward, 30,000 gold. Suggestion: 5 peak level early condensing reality realm warriors or 2 mid condensing reality realm warriors. After reading the description, Yi Chen gasped. This 5-star white rank mission was way too difficult. It turned out to be eliminating a horse gang. The more people there were, the better it would be. Even if one's cultivation was 1 level higher, it would still not be enough. If one was careless, he might even lose his life. No wonder it was suggested to have 5 peak early condensing reality realm warriors or 2 mid condensing reality realm warriors. If one went alone, it would be suicide. But, it was just a suggestion after all. It was aimed at the disciples who were not very talented. For a genius like Yi Chen, it was nothing new to challenge someone who was at a higher cultivation level. If he took this mission, Yi Chen had more than 90% confidence that he could complete it. But, would there be any problems if he took on such a difficult mission right from the start? After thinking for a while, Yi Chen decided to give up on the 5-star white rank mission for now. It was not that he was afraid of trouble, but he was just being cautious. He decided to take on a low-difficulty white rank mission first. Once he had a thorough understanding of the mission's difficulty, he would then take on a high-difficulty mission. This mission is mine. Suddenly, a hand pulled at the paper. With a swoosh, the mission list of eliminating the skeleton horse gang fell into the hand of the person who took the mission. Yi Chen turned his head and looked over. The one who took the mission was a tall teenager with a pair of thick black eyebrows. Just by standing there, his whole body was emitting an extremely oppressive aura, which made the surrounding disciples take half a step back uncontrollably. It's senior brother Wang. Brother Wang. Yi Chen did not recognize him, but the Zhen Qi vibration coming from him was very strong. He was at least a mid-condensing reality realm warrior. The tall teenager chuckled, then turned around and left. Without being affected too much, Yi Chen put his attention back on the jade board and looked down. The third line. Mission: kill the bloody butcher. Crimes: raping women, killing people like flies. Analysis: peak early condensing reality realm warrior. Difficulty: 3 stars reward, 4,000 taels of gold. Suggestion: 2 peak level early condensing reality realm warriors or 1 mid condensing reality realm warrior. Yi Chen's eyes brightened. That's him. Chapter 61. The Bloody Butcher's power was at most equivalent to a mid-condensing reality realm warrior. Not to mention the current Yi Chen, even if he had just reached the condensing reality realm, he would not be afraid. To be honest, choosing this white rank mission was a bit of an overkill. After all, there was no need to rush. However, Yi Chen did not think that way. This was only his first mission, and he did not want to make any mistakes. He had to make sure that nothing would go wrong. Once he had enough experience, he would be able to choose the more difficult missions. There were always missions, and it was not like this was his first time. There was no need to rush. Tearing down the mission sheet, Yi Chen did not rush to leave. He turned around and walked to the white jade board. The first line of the mission was a 4-star white rank mission. It was obviously easier than killing the skeleton bandits. The reward was 5,000 gold and 2 low-rank soul stones, which did not seem like much at all. However, accounts could not be calculated in this way. The value of a low-grade spirit stone was between 1,000 and 1,500 silvers, but the key was to have a place to buy it. Especially for an individual, it was very difficult to buy a spirit stone. You could only come across one in an auction. Therefore, this was only the normal value of a low-grade spirit stone. Most of the time, it was not normal. Sometimes, a low-grade spirit stone could be sold up to 2,000 or 3,000 silvers. Because of this, although the rewards of the missions were low, they were very popular among the disciples who were in need of low-rank soul stones. Every time a mission appeared, it would be taken. There were dozens of mission sheets on the first line of the white jade board. Now, there was only one left. It would probably be taken by someone soon. Yi Chen was not in need of soul stones, and the rewards of the white rank missions were too little. He did not want to join in the fun at all. When he walked out of the floating cloud palace, Wu Zongming happened to walk out at the same time. Yi Chen, what kind of mission did you take? Yi Chen waved the mission sheet in his hand, 3-star white rank mission. Wu Zongming laughed, just like you, I also took a 3-star white rank mission. Go to the Wind Chime town and kill a bloodthirsty two-tailed leopard. Two-tailed leopard, very fast. The two-tailed leopard was a rank 3 beast, it was not very powerful. It was about the same as a normal condensing reality realm warrior, but it was as fast as the wind, very hard to deal with. That's true. I need to go back and prepare. Let's talk again when we have time. Alright then. After parting with Wu Zongming, Yi Chen saw that it was still early and walked down the mountain. Blackstone Village, a remote village near the Blackstone Mountain Range. The area of the town was not large, and there were no tall buildings. It was surrounded by a simple wooden fence. Its purpose was nothing more than to guard against sneak attacks from low-level demonic beasts. After all, demonic beasts frequently appeared in the wilderness. If one was not careful, they would become prey. On the road not far from Blackstone Town, the youth slowed down his horse. According to the information, the Bloody Butcher came to this area 3 days ago, and within a few hundred miles, Blackstone Town is the only place where people can live, unless he went somewhere else during this time. The young man was Yi Chen. It had been a day and 2 nights since he had accepted the mission. During this time, he had traveled non-stop and arrived at Blackstone Town, which was 3,000 miles away. Whatever, let's go in and take a look first. With a slight push from his legs, Yi Chen urged the dark brown horse to gallop towards the entrance of Darkstone Town. After entering the town, Yi Chen got off the horse and led it as he walked. The environment of the town was not very good. The road was full of potholes, and the shops on both sides of the road looked very old, as if they had not been repaired for a long time. Compared to the windy town, this was like a village. The two were not even on the same level. Of course, Yi Chen did not care about the environment. His purpose here was to kill the Bloody Butcher, and he would leave soon. In the middle of the town, there was a 2-story restaurant. Maybe this was the busiest place in Blackstone Town. On the 2nd floor, there was a burly man sitting by the window. He was wearing brown clothes, and his wild hair was draped over his shoulders. The hand that was holding the wine glass was thick and had thick calluses. It was as hard as iron, and it was slightly black. As for his face, it was very scary. The crisscrossing knife scars had almost ruined his face. Only his eyes were shining, and emitted a cruel aura. After eating a few pieces of beef and drinking a glass of wine, the burly man turned around and said to a teenager in purple, "Who are you? It seems like you have been staring at me for a long time." The teenager in purple put down the chopsticks in his hand, and said arrogantly, "You are the bloody butcher?" "That's right." The burly man licked his lips. "It seems like my luck is quite good. Do you want to kill yourself, or do you want me to kill you myself? Choose one." Hearing him, the bloody butcher laughed out loud, "You are just a small peak of the early condensing reality realm warrior. How dare you say something like that? You have underestimated me. Looking at your clothes, you must be an inner disciple of the Purple Sun Martial School, right? Unfortunately, you will die here today." He had killed many people, and was often chased by disciples from different martial institutions. But he still managed to survive. But last time, he was really unlucky. He ran into an inner disciple from the North Snow Martial Academy, who was at the same cultivation level as him. His blizzard sword art was extremely sharp, which almost killed him. Fortunately, the experience of living on the edge of a knife was not useless. At the most dangerous moment, he fought back like crazy, as if he was ready to risk his life. That North Snow Martial Academy disciple was still inexperienced, so he did not plan to fight him head-on. Instead, he wanted to kill him slowly. But in the end, he was killed by the bloody butcher with one palm attack. The bloody butcher did not have it easy either. His face had been cut dozens of times by the sword light, which made him look like this. The purple-clothed youth slowly stood up, "I've eaten and drunk my fill. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being ruthless. I forgot to tell you that my name is Ting Yunlong, and I'm the one who's going to kill you. Hee hee." The bloody butcher also stood up. He did not say anything, but stared at the space behind Ting Yunlong, as if there was someone there that caught his attention. Ting Yunlong looked confused as he turned around. "Little brat, you are still too young." The bloody butcher laughed proudly. He raised his thick right hand, which was surrounded by a bloody aura, and threw a palm attack towards Ting Yunlong. Ting Yunlong was furious. Despicable. He threw a palm attack back. Boom! A powerful shockwave spread out in all directions. All of the tables and chairs on the second floor were shattered. Some of the diners did not manage to dodge in time, and were bleeding from all of their orifices. After the sound, Ting Yunlong was thrown out of the second floor, and fell on the bumpy street. His clothes were torn, and his face was pale. The next second, the bloody butcher chased after him, and threw out another palm attack. He yelled, "Slaughtering you on bloody hand." The bloody Zhenqi turned into a huge palm print in the air, and pressed towards Ting Yunlong, which made all of his Zhenqi and qi stagnate. At this critical moment, Ting Yunlong bit the tip of his tongue, and threw out two palms filled with purple Zhenqi. Chapter 62. Zhenyang Palm. Ting Yunlong's palms released a layer of purple qi, which was extremely hot. Wherever it passed, the air started to boil like boiling water. When the bloody palm and the purple qi layer collided, the air started to twist. Then, a bright purple light exploded, trying to break through the bloody palm. However, the palm was extremely solid and had the effect of destroying Zhenqi. Once the purple light touched the palm, it was like snow in the sun, it started to melt. In the blink of an eye, 30% of the Zhenqi layer had been destroyed, and the remaining 70% had been destroyed immediately. Puff! Ting Yunlong spat out a mouthful of blood, he was blown away. The bloody butcher would not give up on such a great opportunity. He chased after Ting Yunlong as he landed on the ground. He laughed arrogantly, "Although my qi slaughtering bloody hand is a top-rank mortal realm martial skill, it specializes in destroying Zhenqi. Plus, you did not have time to accumulate your power, you could only use 70% of your power. You are no match for me. Bloody butcher, do you really think I am a fish on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered by you? Hearing this, a ferocious expression flashed across Ting Yunlong's face. As he retreated, he reached into his robe and took out a pill. This pill was about the size of a longan fruit. Its surface was crystal clear and it contained a red light that resembled a raging flame. Ting Yunlong swallowed the pellet without any hesitation. His purple robe started to flutter in the air. It was obvious that he was using all of his Jin Qi. The next second, Ting Yunlong's face turned bright red, his earthworm-sized veins popped up under his skin, reaching all the way to his hair. The bloody butcher was shocked. Heart-burning pellet. Ka la la. The ground cracked under Ting Yunlong's feet. Ting Yunlong stopped moving backward, his body was surrounded by a faint red light, his aura was no weaker than a mid-condensing reality realm warrior. That's right, it is our martial institution's heart-burning pellet. Within 15 minutes after swallowing it, your Jin Qi will start to boil, it will increase your cultivation by 1 level. Plus, the effect of the pellet will be endless, and all of your previous injuries will be suppressed. As Ting Yunlong spoke, he put his right hand 3 inches away from his dantian and slowly pulled it up, as if he was preparing for the last moment to bring the pellet's effect to its peak. Before this, there were already a lot of onlookers, some of them were lone travelers, and Yi Chen was one of them. I did not expect an inner disciple from the Purple Sun Martial School to be ahead of me. This is going to be a bit troublesome. But luckily, the Bloody Butcher is not that easy to take care of. His power is not that important, he is only as powerful as a normal mid-condensing reality realm warrior, but he is very experienced, he can use his power to 120%. Even a mid-condensing reality realm warrior would not be able to do anything to him. Holding his horse and standing at the back of the crowd, Yi Chen thought to himself. Seeing what had happened to Ting Yunlong, and hearing the Bloody Butcher talk about the heart-burning pellet, Yi Chen realized that Ting Yunlong still had a way to save his life. The heart-burning pellet was unique to the Purple Young Martial School, they could only make less than 10 of them in a year, and each of them could be sold for more than 10,000 silvers. It was something that many warriors wanted. It seemed like Ting Yunlong wanted to kill the Bloody Butcher at all costs. After all, a heart-burning pellet was worth tens of thousands of silvers, and killing the Bloody Butcher would only be worth 4,000 silvers. It would be a waste to kill the Bloody Butcher. Brat, so what if you took the heart-burning pellet? Die. Ting Yunlong even had a heart-burning pellet, he was obviously valued by the Purple Young Martial School. Maybe he had other valuable things with him. Thinking about this, the Bloody Butcher's aura grew even stronger, and he threw a palm attack towards Ting Yunlong. Shoo! The air was pierced through by the bloody palm attack, bringing up waves of ripples. It looked like it was going to kill Ting Yunlong with one hit. Ting Yunlong let out a long roar, and the red light around his body suddenly increased by 30%. The strong Jin Qi vibration made the windows around them shake, making creaking sounds. You want to kill me? Die. Ting Yunlong did not move back, instead, he drew a half circle in the air with his right hand. A purple and red ball of qi came together and turned into a light ball, flying towards the bloody palm attack. Boom boom boom. The buildings on both sides of the street cracked open, and a shockwave that was powerful enough to kill a tiger spread out in all directions, blowing away all the people who were watching the fight from afar. The two of them each took 3 steps back, and then started fighting again. Boom 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 boom, the wind from their palms whistled, and the shadows of their figures overlapped one another. The crackling sounds of energy explosions rang out incessantly. The two of them fought from the east to the west, from the street to the rooftop of the restaurant. They fought everywhere. After a while, a shadow suddenly flew back and landed on top of a house. It was the Bloody Butcher. Trying to buy time. No way. Ting Yunlong sneered. He jumped towards his opponent and threw out a palm attack. The Bloody Butcher did not seem to want to dodge. He slightly spread his legs and straightened his right palm, taking Ting Yunlong's attack head-on. Dong! Ah! After the loud sound, there was a scream. Ting Yunlong's body was smashed into the wall of the restaurant. His eyes were wide open as if he had seen a ghost. He said weakly, "You are so despicable. How could you hide your real power?" I had already reached the mid-condensing reality realm half a month ago. I was just afraid that I would be chased by people who were even more powerful than me, so I had to hide my real power. This way, I could live a free life, play with you so-called martial disciples, and get a lot of wealth from you. Why not? The Bloody Butcher paused for a second, then continued, "After I get all your wealth, I will leave the Windy Nation and go to another nation, then I will change my name. By then, no one will be able to find me, ha 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 ha." At the end of his speech, the Bloody Butcher laughed proudly. Although he was not very powerful, he had played with a lot of beautiful women. Some of them were from big families. He had killed so many people that he had lost count. At least, he could fill up this restaurant. However, he was lucky. He was still alive, and he had more than $1 million with him. No matter where he went, he could make a name for himself. Ting Yunlong's eyes were wide open, and he breathed his last breath unwillingly. At the moment of his death, he regretted not running away, he regretted accepting this task, and he regretted encountering the Bloody Butcher, this evil and cunning villain. If he had a second chance in life, he would definitely choose to live on. He would not risk his life for the so-called fame. Seeing that Ting Yunlong was dead, the Bloody Butcher was still worried. He threw out a palm attack and shattered Ting Yunlong's chest, then walked up to him, ready to search his body. "The Bloody Butcher is so cunning." A clear voice came from the crowd. The Bloody Butcher stopped walking and looked towards the direction of the voice. His face darkened. "Who is it?" "The one who will take your head." Yi Chen slowly walked out from the crowd. Chapter 63. The Bloody Butcher glanced at Yi Chen. He was wearing a white robe, with a long sword on his waist. He was about 15 years old, handsome, and had a pure chi. The Bloody Butcher sneered, "It seems like quite a lot of people have accepted this mission. I just killed an inner disciple from the Purple Sun Martial School, and now another from the Sky Cloud Martial School. Will the inner disciples from the Rudra Martial School and the Emerald Martial Palace come as well? Unfortunately, you are even more stupid than him. You know that I am a mid-condensing reality realm warrior, and you still want to take my head. You really don't know how to spell the word death." If Yi Chen was a late condensing reality realm warrior, the Bloody Butcher would not even think about fighting him, and would definitely run away. But judging from the vibration of Yi Chen's Jin Qi, he was only at the early condensing reality realm, not even at the peak. Although that Jin Qi was a bit strange, it was extremely pure and sharp, as if it was made up of countless tiny blades, but it was still nothing to him. Yi Chen's expression did not change. He said, "You are only at the mid-condensing reality realm, but you can pretend to be at the peak of the early condensing reality realm. You must have trained some kind of supplementary martial art, right? I am very interested." This kind of supplementary martial art did not have much effect on increasing one's power, but sometimes it could be more effective than one's own power. For example, one could hide one's real power and wait for the enemy to be careless, then suddenly counterattack. Or one could suppress one's own power and enter some ancient ruins with restrictions on cultivation. The Bloody Butcher frowned. Yi Chen's calm tone made him feel a little bit of danger, as if something terrible was going to happen. But as soon as the thought appeared, he denied it. How could it be? An early condensing reality realm warrior, even if he was a genius, he would not be able to win against me. The inner disciple from the North Snow Martial Academy was an example. No matter how talented he was, he still died in my hands. Thinking of this, the Bloody Butcher grinned and said, "Dead people don't need to know so much." Earth explosion. Before he could finish his sentence, the Bloody Butcher stomped on the ground. The ground cracked open, and a pitch-black crack extended towards Yi Chen's location like lightning. Then, There was a loud explosion. The pebbles were like hidden weapons, shooting out in all directions, covering an area of more than 8 jang. The buildings on both sides were instantly riddled with thousands of holes, and the people who were close to them were pierced into sieves. They fell to the ground in terror, dying with their eyes wide open. Looking at the site of the explosion, there was a huge crater that was 1.5 feet wide and 3 feet deep, and there were no corpses or bones left. Ha ha ha. If I, the bloody butcher, want you dead by midnight, I won't let you live until midnight. In your next life, be more careful. It had been a long time since the bloody butcher had had such a good time. He had killed 2 disciples from the martial school in a row, and it was as easy as blowing off dust. The only pity was that the 2 disciples had been torn into pieces by the explosion, and the gold notes were definitely gone. After a slight heartache, the bloody butcher thought it through. He already had millions of gold coins, and a little more or less didn't matter. The lone travelers in the Jianghu looked at each other. This bloody butcher was too powerful. An early condensing reality realm warrior could not even take 1 attack from him, and died without even a corpse left. Luckily, he did not lose his mind, or else he would be the one dead. As the bloody butcher was about to bend down and search Ting Yunlong's body, a sword light suddenly enlarged in front of him. What he saw was Yi Chen, who was wearing a white robe. He looked like a ghost under the sun, but he also had an otherworldly aura. He flashed past in front of his eyes at an almost instantaneous speed. Swoosh! A stream of blood shot out from the bloody butcher's neck, shooting out 3 meters away. You are not dead. With every word the bloody butcher said, a huge amount of blood came out from his neck. Standing 5 steps behind the bloody butcher, Yi Chen put his sword back into its scabbard, and said lightly, I wanted to talk to you for a bit longer, too bad. Bam! A self-deprecating look flashed through the bloody butcher's eyes. His head tilted and fell down from his neck. His body fell down as well, and his blood stained the ground. Turning around, Yi Chen slightly shook his head. If it was a real fair fight, it would take him at least 3 attacks to kill the bloody butcher. After all, the bloody butcher was more powerful than Cui Shiming, and in terms of cunning, even 2 Cui Shimings would not be able to compete with him. However, the bloody butcher had underestimated him from the very beginning. Otherwise, even if Yi Chen's sword could hit the bloody butcher, it would have been blocked by his protective Zhen Qi. However, Yi Chen had forgotten one thing. After training the crane's shadow steps, his speed was unbelievably fast. Just when the bloody butcher wanted to circulate his qi, it was already too late. The bloody butcher had been cautious his whole life, but at the last moment, he had been careless. Of course, no matter how cautious he had been, the moment Yi Chen decided to kill him, his life no longer belonged to him. This was the absolute power, the absolute advantage, and nothing could make up for it. Those lone travelers who had not left yet had their mouths wide open, they were all shocked. All they saw was Yi Chen's sword attack, and then the bloody butcher's head fell off. They had no idea what had happened. Sword attack, head fall. What a clean cut, what kind of skill was this? Just like a killer hiding in the dark, if he didn't make a move, then he would definitely kill. This kid is terrifying. A lone traveler said in a low voice. Another person said, I feel like I see the shadow of young Master North Snow in him. He is also very young, and he also has the same ability to kill. However, if he wants to reach the same level as young Master North Snow, there is one person who is his biggest rival. Who? Who else could it be? The 3rd disciple of the North Snow Martial Academy, Lynch. This guy is not very talented, but he can always do things that ordinary people can't. He defeated Quick Blade Wu Wanshan with only 10 attacks, cut the waterfall in half with 1 attack, and scared the red smelting bird off with his chi. The leader of the North Snow Martial Academy said that among all the disciples, he was the one who had the highest chance of learning the blade intent. Even young Master North Snow didn't get such an evaluation. Blade intent. Are you kidding me? Even blade artists who have reached the clasping Yuan realm can barely learn the blade intent. In the entire Windy Nation, only the leader of the North Snow Martial Academy has reached this level. What level are you at? What level is the leader of the North Snow Martial Academy? How could he be lying? Plus, he only said it was most likely, he didn't say it was certain. That's true. But this kid is much weaker than Lynch. He still has a long way to go if he wants to compete with Lynch. All the martial artists were discussing and expressing their own opinions. Yi Chen did not hear these discussions, he was focusing all his attention on the Bloody Butcher. As a bounty criminal, he would usually carry a large amount of money with him, ranging from hundreds of thousands of taels to tens of thousands of taels. This was also the reason why the disciples of the various sects went crazy. After all, once luck came, it was impossible to stop it, and one could become a millionaire overnight. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.